you know that pride goes before a fall. If you really want to be able, if you ever get into a high place in life, and if you want to stay there, you got to walk in humility. Because pride goes before a fall. It can bring you down from the mountaintop. It can cause you to be humbled. Either you humble yourself or you'll be humiliated. But I want you to understand that humility is not thinking less of yourself. Humility is thinking of yourself less. It's not thinking less of yourself. Humility is thinking of yourself less. You want to know how you can tell if a person has a spirit of pride? Touch your neighbor, say, you'll know. Pride refuses to be corrected. You ever know anybody that just full of pride, you can't even tell them anything? They're always right. Now, if you live with that person, just keep looking straight ahead. But pride refuses to be corrected. It's a sign of pride. A person refuses to be corrected. Secondly, pride is impatient. Impatience oftentimes is a manifestation of pride. You make people wait and they're like, you must not know who I am. Excuse me, tell them I'm a regular customer. I shouldn't be waiting. It's a sign. Pride is impatient. It's always impatient. It wants to be served immediately. Number three, pride seeks attention. It seeks attention. Because the emphasis is always on self. It's got to seek attention. It's an issue of pride. Seeks attention. Number four, it is rude and condescending to others. I mean, there's no reason for it, but they're just rude. Somebody's serving them, they're but rude to the person who's serving them. And somebody's just helping them. I've seen individuals get old, prejudiced, and have somebody of another race having to nurse them, and they are condescending toward them. No wonder some of them get beat. I'm not speaking that's not to justify it, but some folks just can't handle it. They just can't handle it. If you're called, if you got a grace to do that, you will have to look over ornery attitudes of individuals who are ungrateful, unthankful, prejudicial, and you'll be assigned that you're paid there to serve them, and their mouths are spewing out obscenities and racial things and sexist things. Pride is rude and condescending to others. And then fifthly, pride carries a sense of entitlement to it. A sense of entitlement where they just feel entitled. They feel entitled. Knowledge often causes us to be puffed up. But I think that our view really should be that of W.E.B. Du Bois, who believed in the talented tenth. That the talented tenth is responsible for going back and teaching the other 90%. The sin of pride is not that it lifts a person up, but that it suppresses others down. Because you see, pride is devoid of love for others. 1 Corinthians 13:4 says, love is not puffed up. It is not puffed up. So when you find pride, it's because pride is devoid of love for others. And please understand this, pride is the strength of sin. Pride is the strength of sin. If you ever find a person who is locked into sinful behavior and they just will not change, it is because pride is the strength of that sin. Pride is the strength of sin. And then arrogance is a cover for shame. Arrogance, it is a cover for shame. I guarantee you, whenever you find an arrogant person, that there is something that they're trying to cover up. That they don't want you to know about them, where they came from, or who they really are, or how they lack the real credentials, and so they want you to call them by these titles, because their arrogance is trying to cover up the shame of their lack of honest credentials, of honest substance on the inside of them. When you find arrogant people, who carry themselves as though they're better than other folks, they've got a shame in their own life. There's something that they're hiding, and they're using this facade of being important to cover the shame of who they really are. And so when you really have the goods, you're okay regardless of what people call you. You understand that it's not your title that makes you or breaks you. It's, you'll find people. I mean, when I went today for my physical, and when I first met my doctor, he just called himself by his first name. He said, just call me so and so. So that's what I call him. I couldn't pronounce his last name. But you'll be surprised. It's got a legitimate medical degree. And some folks are so stuck on a title. But when they've got the real goods, it didn't even mean anything to him. And you'll be surprised how you can have a title and still be warm and loving toward people. That you don't lift yourself above them. You really understand that, you know what, maybe I was just put in some circumstances and situation, but all of us, underneath all of us are clay. And I'm just like you are. My clay might have been to school a little longer than yours, but I'm just like you are. When you really understand that, I've talked with some very wealthy people, and they understand that you're just like I am. I had different opportunities that were afforded to me. If they'll really be honest with themselves, it's not necessarily because they were so smart or that they have aristocratic blood running through their veins. There are some dimwits who are in the royal line that are using as a title something that is to try to overcompensate for their lack of real substance in their life. But arrogance is a cover for shame. The next time you see an arrogant person, just start wondering, what's this really about? When you look at a beautiful peacock with those gorgeous colors in their feathers, it is just absolutely beautiful. The turquoise is just absolutely gorgeous. Then look down at their rusty feet. They strut like a peacock, but all of this fanfare in their tail is to try to cover those ashy, ugly feet. I'm just telling you, arrogance is a cover for shame. So the next time you see an arrogant person, just say in the back of your mind, I wonder what they're hiding. And then look down at their feet. There are at least two kinds of pride. One that I call lofty pride. There is a lofty pride. Like when people become grandparents, there's a pride of being a grandparent that even being a parent does not have. I call that a lofty pride. You understand that you've done well by the grace of God. When you have the lofty pride, this is pride over what God has done for you. This is pride over what God has done to you. And this is also pride over what God has done through you. But it's all on God. The emphasis is on what God has done. That's lofty pride. Now, this selfish pride, number two, is negative, degenerative pride. This is pride that puts the emphasis on self, saying, look what I have done. Look what I have done. The lofty pride is saying, look how the Lord, look what God has done. It is marvelous in our eyes. The Lord has done it. The emphasis is God when you have lofty pride. God has blessed me with grandchildren. The emphasis is on what God has done. What God has done to you, what God has done in you, what God has done through you. But when you have this negative, degenerative pride that is condescending toward others, it's saying, look what I have done. The emphasis is all on you, has little to nothing to do with what God has done. And that's the difference. Pride is manifested in three ways. Number one, by word. You'll find people with pride that they become condescending in the way that they talk to other people. They are very condescending in the way that they talk to other people. Most pride-filled people, I mean, they have an artificial voice. Well, I mean, I was actually like this. I mean, it'd be somebody this country, you know, and then they get to the city and they change how they pronounce the name. You don't know anybody like that, but I know one or two people like that. You'd be surprised. A fellow that I knew, his name was Leroy. Leroy got to a place he started doing a little better, and then he changed his name. He was Leroy. I'm like, hey, Leroy, how you doing? I busted him out. He's like, no, Leroy. I'm like, whatever, Leroy. But by word number two is by spirit. By spirit, that manifests the attitude. They don't even have to say anything, just their spirit. You can tell a person when they have a spirit of pride. I mean, sometimes it's just the way they hold their head. It's just the way they carry themselves. You're like, you know, that is pride. I mean, you can recognize it a mile away. They think they all that. You can just recognize there's a spirit, there's an attitude that they carry. Number three is gesture. It's when a person is stiff-necked and stuck up. You know, Jesus would have to rebuke some people. You know, he said to the scribes and Pharisees, ye stiff-necked and uncircumcised in heart. Boy, he let them have it. Jesus, you know, I don't know how sometimes they painted him as being this little meek, little mamsy-pamsy kind. Jesus would call a spade and an ace an ace. I mean, he would. I mean, Jesus said, you brood of vipers. You bunch of snakes. I mean, he came head on. He didn't skirt around trying to fix it up. I mean, I'm like, boy, no wonder they were trying to kill him. We look at him as being very, very soft-spoken, very, very kind, but Jesus, he made some strong statements to the scribes and Pharisees. And so you have to be very careful about the spirit of Japheth, that's this pride that would enter into us. If you develop your trust in the Lord, you'll conquer Japheth. Trust is far beyond faith, because, and some people think they use the terms interchangeably as though faith is the same as trust. No, they are not. Faith is seeing by the Spirit what God has already done. You know, that's faith. It's acting like God's word is already true, but God has already told you something by faith, and you're using your faith to go after something that you clearly know that God is doing for you. But now trust is a different thing. You have to trust him when you don't know what in the world is going on. I mean, here was Job. He hadn't done anything, and then all 10 of his children are killed. Then boils break out all over his body, and he hadn't even done anything. And he had to trust that God knew what he was doing when he caused him to lose all of his cattle, all of his children, lost his health, and he was left with nothing but a nagging wife. And he didn't do anything. And you know, when our minds are searching, they say, what is it that I have done? Why has all of this evil befallen me? But Job had to trust him. Job lost everything that he had, and he said, naked came I into the world, naked am I going to go out, blessed be the name of the Lord. Job said, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. Job could not see by faith what God was doing. And there are some times that life will hit you real hard, knock the wind out of you in a blind spot in your life. You didn't see this coming. And you don't even know how I'm going to make it through this. You don't even have an assurance of knowing how this thing is going to turn out. Daniel dealt with that in the lion's den. The Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they didn't know how this thing was going to turn out in the fiery furnace. And they said this one thing, they said, whether God will deliver us or not, we don't really know. But we do know this, we will not bow our knee to Baal. They trusted that God was able to deliver them. They said, now we don't know whether he will or not. Have you ever been in a situation where you are, can we be real? We are in church. Can we tell the truth? That there are some things that will happen in your life and you just honestly cannot see what in the world is happening. You wonder, God, what am I doing? What did I do to deserve this? What's going on? God, where are you dealing with this? I never in a million years thought that I would wind up in a situation like this. I've got to trust him now because my faith is totally discombobulated. My faith is out of commission. My faith is unemployed right now. My faith can't even explain this that I'm dealing. Anybody know what I'm talking about? When your faith is just irrelevant in that situation, because I can't even see, I don't know what to believe now. I've been hit so hard, I'm dizzy. I don't know what in the world is happening right now. God, you're going to have to help me. I have been swimming in the head, Jesus. I've been left here by my lonesome self. I don't have enough money to pay all of these bills, Jesus, but I've got to trust you that you are my Father and that you will lead me beside the still water and restore my soul. I need you, Jesus. I trust you. Though you slay me, yet will I trust him. And Joshua is steadily trying to get you to figure this thing out. What you gonna do now? How you gonna pay this? How you gonna get out of this pickle? How you gonna get out of that mess? Watch what the people say to you about you now. And you got to be in a position where you're saying, God, I trust you. I trust you. I have resigned just to trust you. I'm just trusting. And there are times when God will send you after something and you don't even understand what you're going after. You have to do what I call trusting and trembling. Trusting and trembling. I'm going, but I'm scared. I don't know whether it's going to work out or not. I know we say some powerful things in faith, but sometimes you don't know how your children are going to turn out. You don't know what your husband, your wife is liable to do. I'm trusting and trembling. I'm trusting and trembling. I'm trusting. I don't know whether this business will make it or not. I don't know whether my job is going to be there tomorrow or not. I am trusting and trembling. It has nothing to do with your faith. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Lean not unto your own understanding. In all of your ways, acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. You don't have to know how. All that you need to have is that. Let me just tell you, in Luke chapter 22, the Bible says that Jesus, being in agony, that he prayed more earnestly. And then his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. Being in agony is not the time to allow Joshua to run loose. When Jesus was earnestly praying, he began bleeding from his brow. And every place that Jesus bled is a redeeming place. Jesus redeemed our thinking by his own blood. Stop sweating things. Jesus has already sweated blood for us in the Garden of Gethsemane. And we try to gain by the sweat of our brow what can only be gained by the blood of his brow. And if you can hear God speaking to your heart, you don't have to see the way. All that you have to do is to hear his voice saying, this is the way, follow me. And as long as God is talking to you, even when you cannot see the way, just as long as you can hear his voice, the first requirement for being helped or for being healed is humility. the first requirement for being helped or to being healed is humility. And when God says that he will never leave you nor forsake you, he is saying, as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. As I was with Joshua, so I will be with you. As I was with Abraham, so I will be with you. As I was with David, so I will be with you. And the way to effectively deal with Japhia is to consider yourself dead and put your full trust in him. And when you trust him, when you cannot trace him, when you don't know what God is doing in your life, and you have no idea how long the storm is going to last. Have you ever had things to rain on you, one thing after another, after another, after another, and you start questioning and asking yourself, God, how long? How much more can I take before I break? You don't know your breaking point, but God does. He knows, he knows, he knows, he knows. And I just want you to know that God's got you. God's got you. You know, it takes a lot of faith sometimes to just stand up and then cross your arms and fall back and let somebody catch you. You start wondering. I was ministering over in England, and the pastor got up on the platform, and he went and dove off the platform, and folks in his congregation caught him, and he beckoned for me to come. Now he's like 5'7", 140 pounds. I'm 6'3", 220. And there were little people that caught him. I didn't trust those little people. I said, no, dog, that's all right. You go back and get you another round of it.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Until next time, God bless you.